Hello everyone. First of all, thank you for having me here today. It's always humbling to be in a room full of ambitious, curious and purpose-driven minds, so let me start with a little confession. I've never been a CEO, not of a Fortune 500 company, not of a tech unicorn, not even of my own life on some days. Laughs, but here's the thing. You don't need a corner office, a fancy title, or $1 billion valuation to be a leader. You just need purpose, courage, and a whole lot of heart. When I was 17, I was just a small town girl from Berkeley who stumbled into the world of pageants by accident. I had no PR team, no brand strategy, just a dream and some really questionable eyebrows. Smirks, but what I did have was belief. Belief that I could show up, learn, adapt, and push boundaries. Even when I was the youngest, the least experienced, or the only woman in the room. That's leadership. When I moved to America to pursue acting in Hollywood, I wasn't the most obvious choice. Let's be honest. People didn't know what to do with a brown girl with an accent and a loud opinion. But instead of waiting to be given a seat at the table, I built my own. One audition, one conversation, one sleepless night at a time. That's leadership. See, leadership isn't about hierarchy. It's about impact. It's in the friend who stands up for someone being bullied, the intern who speaks up with an idea that no one else thought of, the mother who juggles 10 roles and still shows up for her family with grace, the artist who dares to be different, the student who fights for a cause bigger than themselves. We lead every time we choose to be more than our fear, every time we choose kindness over judgment, action over apathy, authenticity over perfection. And let's get one thing straight. Leadership is not a solo act. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. Sometimes it's about listening. Sometimes it's about lifting others up so they can shine brighter than you. Real leaders don't compete, they empower. So no, I'm not a CEO, but I lead in the way I show up for my team, my values, and myself, and so can you. You don't need a title to be a leader. You need vision, voice, and the guts to walk into the unknown. Heels, flats, or sneakers. And when you do, own it, be fearless, be flawed, be unapologetically you. Because the world doesn't need more CEO. It needs more leaders. Leadership is often misunderstood as something reserved for people in powerful positions. CEO, politicians, celebrities, or those with titles that command authority. But true leadership has very little to do with what's on your business card and everything to do with how you show up in the world. It's not about the role you have, it's about the impact you make. You don't need a corner office or 1 million followers to be a leader. You lead every time you take initiative, make a difference, or inspire someone to think differently. Leadership is not a title, it's a mindset. It's a commitment to stand for something, even when you're not required to. It's choosing responsibility when it would be easier to stay silent. It's being the person others can count on, not because you're in charge, but because you care enough to act. Think about the people who have changed your life the most. They might not have been CEO. Maybe it was a teacher who believed in you, a friend who stood up for you, or a colleague who showed you how to be better just by their own work ethic. They weren't assigned to lead, but they did it anyway. That's the essence of leadership, stepping up, not waiting for permission. In today's world, where influence often looks like fame or wealth, we need to redefine what leadership actually means. Leadership is about service, about being willing to go first, and about using your voice, even if it shakes. It's the quiet strength of someone who leads by example, who motivates others without ever needing recognition. So many of us are already leading without realizing it. When you show compassion, speak your truth, or help someone find theirs, you are leading. When you take a stand for your values, encourage others to rise, or bring out the best in a team, you are leading. It doesn't require a stage, it requires courage, consistency, and heart. The world doesn't need more people chasing titles. It needs people committed to making a difference, no matter how small, because leadership at its core is about influence. And anyone can lead from wherever they are. You don't have to be a CEO to change the world. You just have to care enough to try. Believing in yourself is the starting point of any real leadership journey. It might sound simple, even cliché, but it's one of the hardest and most powerful things you can do. Self-belief isn't arrogance or thinking you know everything. It's the quiet, steady confidence that you can figure things out, even when you don't have all the answers. It's about trusting that your voice matters, that your perspective is valid, and that you are capable of growth. Leadership begins from within. Before anyone else will follow you, you need to believe you're worth following. That inner conviction is what allows you to take risks, to speak up when something doesn't feel right, and to keep going when things get hard, which they will. Challenges are a guarantee. Doubts, both internal and external, will show up at every stage. But belief in yourself is what helps you navigate those storms. It's the anchor that keeps you grounded when the world around you is uncertain. There will be moments where you'll be the only one in the room who thinks differently. There will be times when people overlook you, underestimate you, or question your right to be there. That's when self-belief becomes your fuel. It reminds you that you don't need validation from anyone else to stand tall. You know what you bring to the table, and more importantly, you're not afraid to build your own if you're not invited. Many of the most powerful leaders in history were told no, again and again. They weren't always chosen. They didn't always fit the mold, but they believed in their vision, they believed in their purpose, and they believed in themselves even when others didn't. That kind of belief is contagious. It inspires people, it attracts trust, and it builds momentum. People want to follow those who are sure of who they are. Believing in yourself doesn't mean you won't have fear. It means you won't be controlled by it. It's the quiet voice that says, try again, when the world says you can't. That belief gives you the strength to lead, even when you're scared, even when you're unsure, and even when no one else is watching. Because true leadership starts with knowing deep down that you are enough, exactly as you are. Leadership is not about waiting for applause or recognition. It's about showing up, doing the work, and taking action, especially when no one is watching. Too often, people associate leadership with being in the spotlight or being praised for doing something extraordinary. But the truth is, real leadership happens in the quiet moments when you choose to act not because someone told you to, but because you know it's the right thing to do. It's in the way you carry responsibility, not because of a title, but because of your values. Taking initiative is a defining trait of a true leader. You don't wait to be asked, assigned, or rewarded. You see a need, a gap, or a problem, and you step forward. You offer solutions. You put in effort without demanding credit. That's what separates someone who simply follows instructions from someone who leads. It's easy to raise your hand when everyone else is doing it. It's harder and far more meaningful to act alone, driven by conviction rather than recognition. The idea of leadership through action is especially important in a world that often glorifies visibility. Social media, titles, and public praise can create the illusion that only loud or high-profile actions matter. But leadership is often found in the unseen effort, the person who mentors others quietly, the team member who steps in when someone is struggling, the student who takes the lead on a difficult project without needing the spotlight. These moments might not trend or make headlines, but they're the backbone of what leadership really looks like. You don't need to be celebrated to make a difference. Some of the greatest leaders are those who never made a speech, never stood on a stage, and never had a public platform, but they showed up consistently. They took ownership. They acted with integrity. That's the kind of leadership that lasts, the kind that leaves a legacy, not just a resume line. Action without ego is powerful. It builds trust, it earns respect, and over time, those actions speak louder than any title or public recognition ever could. So if you're waiting to be acknowledged before you lead, don't. Lead anyway, because it's not about being seen, it's about doing what matters and doing it with purpose. Leadership doesn't always show up with a microphone, a speech, or a crowd. More often than not, it reveals itself in the quiet, everyday choices we make. You don't have to be running a company or leading a movement to be a leader. Sometimes it's as simple as being the person who chooses empathy over judgment, or the one who stands up for someone who can't stand up for themselves. Leadership is in the small, consistent moments where we choose to do the right thing, even when it's inconvenient or unnoticed. Everyday acts of courage, kindness, and responsibility are just as impactful as grand gestures. A student who helps a classmate without being asked, a colleague who takes responsibility for a team mistake, a parent who models patience and resilience for their child. These are all examples of quiet leadership. They don't always come with titles or rewards, but they shape people, build trust, and create change in meaningful ways. These acts may seem ordinary, but over time, they add up to something extraordinary. Many people hold back from stepping into leadership because they think they need permission, or a position, or some kind of formal training. But leadership isn't exclusive to a select few. It's something anyone can practice, regardless of age, profession, or background. It's not about having power over others, it's about having the strength to influence situations positively and to leave people better than you found them. In fact, the most powerful kind of leadership often happens when no one's watching. It's in being honest when it's easier to lie, in choosing kindness when anger would be justified, and in staying true to your values when it costs you something. That kind of quiet leadership creates a ripple effect. It inspires others to do the same, and slowly but surely, it builds a culture of integrity and trust. It's important to remember that impact doesn't always look like a revolution. Sometimes, it's just being someone others can rely on. Being present, being consistent, being human. So even if you're not in charge, even if you're just one voice among many, you still have the power to lead. Through the choices you make, the values you uphold, and the kindness you extend. And that kind of leadership is needed now more than ever. Leadership isn't about being the loudest person in the room, or always having the final say. It's about creating space for others to rise alongside you. One of the most powerful things a leader can do is to lift others up, not because it makes them look good, but because they genuinely want others to grow. Real leadership is rooted in empowerment, not ego. It doesn't thrive on comparison or competition, it thrives on collaboration and connection. Many people confuse leadership with control, thinking that to lead means to dominate, direct, or outshine everyone else. But true leaders know that when others succeed, it doesn't take anything away from them. In fact, it multiplies the impact. When you support the people around you, when you listen to their ideas, when you help them unlock their potential, you create a team, a culture, and a community that is far stronger than any one person could ever be alone. The best leaders are often those who don't need to be in the spotlight. They are the ones who cheer others on, who share credit, and who are secure enough to let someone else take the lead when the time is right. This kind of leadership requires emotional intelligence. It requires humility. It requires you to put purpose before pride. But in return, it builds loyalty, respect, and real influence, the kind that lasts. Empowering others doesn't mean you make yourself smaller. It means you recognize that there's room for everyone to shine, and that by helping others step into their strengths, you're not only helping them, you're also becoming a stronger leader yourself. The ability to see potential in others, to mentor, to trust, and to collaborate. That's what separates transactional leaders from transformational ones. In a world that often encourages people to compete for attention, validation, or success, choosing to empower others is a bold act. It says, "I'm not afraid of your success, I'm here to celebrate it." That kind of leadership creates a ripple effect. It teaches others to do the same, and soon you're not just leading, you're building other leaders. So if you're in a position to help someone grow, speak up, be heard, or be seen. Do it, because leadership isn't about being the only one at the top. It's about making sure no one is left behind. Authenticity is one of the most powerful qualities a leader can have. In a world full of filters, curated personas, and constant pressure to meet expectations, being your real, unpolished self is both rare and refreshing. True leadership doesn't come from pretending to be perfect. It comes from showing up exactly as you are, flaws and all, and still choosing to lead with confidence. People don't connect with perfection. They connect with honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to be real. Being authentic means leading with your values, not just your voice. It means making decisions that reflect who you truly are, not who others want you to be. When you're authentic, you don't try to fit into someone else's idea of leadership. You define it on your own terms. That doesn't mean you won't make mistakes or have moments of doubt, but it does mean that you own those moments, learn from them, and grow without pretending to be someone you're not. Authentic leaders inspire trust because they are consistent. What they say matches what they do. Their actions are aligned with their beliefs. This consistency creates a foundation of integrity. People know where they stand, and that reliability builds strong relationships. More than that, authenticity gives others permission to be real, too. When a leader shows vulnerability, it creates space for others to do the same. That's where true connection and collaboration begin. There's often pressure to conform, especially when you're stepping into leadership roles for the first time. Maybe it's the pressure to speak a certain way, dress a certain way, or lead like someone else who came before you. But the truth is, your greatest strength is your individuality. The more you embrace your unique experiences, your story, your style, the more powerful and relatable your leadership becomes. Authenticity doesn't mean you have to share every detail of your life. It means being honest about what you believe, transparent in your intentions, and grounded in your identity. It means showing up even when you're unsure and saying, "This is me, and I'm still learning." That kind of leadership is magnetic. It builds respect not just for what you do, but for who you are. And in the end, it's not about leading like someone else. It's about leading like you. That's where your real power lies.